Armie, and this is not going to be for one single review. This is actually going to be for some catch-up reviews. Let me explain why I'm doing this. As you guys know, I have watched a ton of movies this year, over 120, so I'm pretty sure. I've reached 120 at this point. And, well, because of that, there are a lot of movies I love to review, but I just don't get around to doing, and, well, as you guys know, we are kind of at the tail end of and I mean, like, the tail end of the year. Like, 2017 is really rapidly, nearing its end, which is insane, but, because of that, obviously, I don't have time to review every single movie, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to review 5 movies that I've already watched, but I just don't have a ton to say about. These are movies that range from good to bad. I'm not going to tell you how I feel until I get to each of them individually. But basically, like I said, the reason I'm reviewing these in this style is because I just don't have a ton to say about most of these movies. Some of these movies I've been talking about, I watched like 4 to 5 months ago, but luckily I took a copious amount of notes, so I should be fine when it comes to that. The movies that I did watch a while ago, but I meant to do this a while, like back in July actually, but now I'm doing it now. So without further ado, guys, we're just going to dive into it before I start rambling, starting off with the first movie. So the first movie I'm going to talk about, I watched this back in July. I'm not even joking. I meant to review this movie a long time ago, but this was actually the movie that got me to think of doing these catch-up reviews because I really didn't have a ton to say about it, and that is an A24 film called Free Fire. Now, Free Fire is something that I genuinely was looking forward to. It's A24, and because of that always does get me excited for, movies that A24 does. Most of their movies are huge hits for me. They really haven't done too many movies that I don't absolutely love from them. There are a couple here and there, but most of them I find at least good. I haven't really found a bad A24 movie, and, there really wasn't one, like I said, that I consider bad. Free Fire, it's hard to really talk about the plot of this movie because what it is it's set in Boston, 1978, and there's a meeting in a deserted warehouse between these two gangs, and it turns into the shootouts, and that's really it. That's what this movie essentially is. It's a bunch of gangs, they meet up, and a shootout starts, and to be completely honest with you, I really was not a huge fan of this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think this is a terrible movie or whatever, but I just found it to be very bland and uninspired. There's just a lot of things I really wasn't a fan of. First of all, let me just say, all the acting here I think is great. I don't think there are any performances that were bad. I think, honestly, everyone did a really great job. Sharlto Copley especially, I thought that he was really great here. He is very charismatic. He's playing a really fun character like he usually does, and he's just such a character actor. Like, he's great at playing these really larger-than-life type roles, and he does that very well here, as well as Brie Larson, who I believe is the only woman in the cast. She as well did a really great job here. I thought her performance was especially strong, and I really love what she did in this film. Also, the action sequences, I think, are extremely well done. There are a lot of high-tane, over-the-top action. It's definitely really well done. And the style, I actually really do like. It's something in the vein of, say, like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something like that. And I think the style here is actually really cool. I definitely really do enjoy it. However, the style is also a problem in the movie because the tone in general is extremely confusing. Because there are parts of this movie where you can tell they're not taking themselves too seriously. However, after, like I'd say, the first 2 acts, it becomes really, really serious. And there comes a point where you just can't have fun with it anymore. And honestly, that's what I wanted this movie to be. It was advertised as such. I don't know why it didn't turn out to be that. I thought this was just going to be a fun movie. Unfortunately, that's not what it was at all. This was honestly a very serious action film that, again, it was just very confusing what they were trying to do. There were scenes where I couldn't tell if they wanted me to take it seriously or not, because like I said, it doesn't really have an established tone. It switches tones often, and it doesn't feel natural. It just didn't really work for this film overall. The dialogue also is very repetitive. There's a lot of conversations of just the characters arguing about guns or other insults they keep saying to each other. It just doesn't really have a great flow, and the dialogue feels very, like I said, feels very repetitive in that sense. Like, it feels like it's almost as if you were to like rewind the scene, you feel like you're rewatching the same scene happen different times. That's very much what this movie felt like. The characters as well are just really not there. As good as the acting is, I really thought the characters were not here. I really didn't feel connected to honestly anyone in this movie, and it's unfortunate because I really wanted to get into it. It's got a really great cast, but I just didn't really care about most of the characters here. Like I said, I thought the third act got really way too serious. The costume design here, I will say, is great. Visually, this movie's fantastic. I think the costumes are great. You definitely need to feel like you're in that 1970s tone, but just in general, this was a very forgettable movie. It's not really something that I really would recommend. It unfortunately is one of A24's, I think, weaker films. It's not a bad movie. It just really wastes a lot of great talent. I really couldn't tell what this film was trying to do, if it was trying to satirize films of the 70s or if it was trying to pay homage to it. I just really couldn't tell what they were trying to do with this film overall, and unfortunately I am going to give Free Fire a C. So the next film I'm going to talk about is the controversial American remake of Ghost in the Shell, which what Ghost in the Shell is essentially about. We focus on the character of Major. She's played by Scarlett Johansson, and it takes place in like the near future. She's basically this robot who is tasked to basically just be a soldier and is supposed to be basically a cold-blooded killer. However, while she is doing this, she starts to realize that her life was actually stolen and that she used to have another life, and she tries to do what she can to try to recover her past. Even though she's been told to repress a lot of those memories, she tries to recover them as much as she can and maybe get to the bottom of things. And Ghost in the Shell, I was really looking forward to. From that plot and from other things we learned, there were a lot of things that I was looking forward to in this movie. I thought it had a lot of potential, honestly. Scarlett Johansson is an actress that I think always does give a very noteworthy performance. And once again, similar to Free Fire, I just really was not that into this movie. Now, I do think it's a bit better than Free Fire, but not by much. This was a very disappointing movie overall. But similar to Free Fire, I will say, the performances here, I think, are really good. However, Scarlett Johansson, I do think, really does stick out here. Sure, her being cast as Major is very controversial. I know a lot of people were definitely not especially on board with that, but I do think she overall did a really good job here. I do think she gave a very strong performance. You know, a performance like this requires a lot out of an actress. She has to kind of be emotionless and find a way to project without actually showing emotion, and she does a pretty good job here. I did think overall she was really good. Everyone else in the film who, while good, I just don't really think really rose up to her level. She definitely is absolutely the standout, and everyone else is just kind of whatever here. The other thing about this movie is that visually, this movie is an absolute masterpiece. I think the visuals are astounding. It's one of those films where you could just watch it with the sound off just to show off your TV, like play in the background, just to show how great like your 4K TV is, and it looks great. It really does. I think the visuals here, it feels like a futuristic world, and they got that down perfectly. And the story as well is definitely very compelling. I'm not going to say the story wasn't, because I was overall really interested in the story. It's just the execution of it isn't really all that interesting, and that's mainly because aside from Major, I just didn't give a shit about most of these characters. All these characters just felt very throwaway to me. They felt very paper thin, and their motivations were very, the villain especially, I can't even remember who the villain was. I mean, I watched this movie like 4 months ago, but I can't even remember who the villain was, what his name was, what his motive was. They're just not very clear with the motives and whatnot. I thought all that stuff should have been a lot clearer, but unfortunately it just wasn't, so that really didn't come together for me. So like I said, the side characters here really aren't all that great. Similar to Free Fire though, there are some really entertaining action scenes. I do think there were some action scenes that are really well done. When Major is, you know, taking out people, it's fun to watch. Scarlett Johansson definitely does give a very convincing performance in that regard. I do think she did a really good job with that. there is a twist revealed in this movie, and I'm not gonna lie, once that initial twist happened, once we found out who Major really was, the film got really, really boring. Like, it screeches to a halt completely, and I just was no longer into the story. It just made things really uninteresting, and the ending, the way the film wraps up, while it is well done, it does feel very underwhelming, and I really kind of wanted more from it. And I get why they took it in this direction. I'm not, like, upset about it, but it just felt very underwhelming in that regard. Also, the message of the movie is just so on the nose. The whole movie's supposed to be about, oh, robots have emotions too, and everyone has emotions in some way. It just, Westworld did it a lot better. It definitely, I understand that this is the message, like, of the anime as well, but here it just felt very on the nose. It felt like they were just trying to shove it in your face, and it just didn't work as well. Ghost in the Shell is not at all a terrible movie, but I just really wanted a lot more from it. It's got a really good performance from Scarlett Johansson. It's got some good action scenes overall, but in the end, this movie just didn't really do much for me. Unfortunately, I am going to give Ghost in the Shell overall a C+. So the next film I'm going to talk about is a film that I was absolutely dreading, but I checked it out, and that's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Lawn Haul. And what The Lawn Haul is essentially about is we focus on the Heffleys. They're attending a family road trip to their Meemaw's 90th birthday party, and things obviously go very off the rails thanks to Greg and his schemes, because he's trying to get to a video game convention at the same time, so he's kind of derailing them, and that really is all there is to say. And Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Lawn Haul, I was absolutely dreading this movie. If you guys don't know, this was the movie I was least looking forward to all summer long. It was just such an unnecessary sequel, and I've never really liked these movies to begin with. Really, only the second one is the one that I enjoyed. The other ones I just found. The first one I hate. The third one's just a very disposable sequel. The second one I think is a genuinely good movie, but the third one was supposed to be the ending. It was the time when they said, we're not doing these anymore. The kids are getting too old. So why are we continuing them? I mean, I just don't get what the point is in continuing the series. It feels very unnecessary to me, and that's exactly what this movie is. It feels extremely unnecessary, and honestly, it is a huge slap in the face to the franchise. A franchise that I'm not even that fond of, but it honestly made me miss those movies. It really did. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Lawn Haul is truly awful. I mean, I fucking hated this movie. This is easily one of the worst movies of the entire year, without a doubt. And there are just so many factors that contribute to that. I'll say it right off the bat that the acting here, I think for the most part is really bad, but the main kid, Jason Drucker, I will admit he does a good job. He's got a future ahead of him. He carries the film pretty well as Greg. I think he does as good as a job as you can in this role. It definitely does seem like he's trying. Everyone else here just pretty much seems like they're on autopilot. It just really seems like they're going through the motions. Charlie Wright is truly awful as Roderick. He doesn't get any of it right. He doesn't have the goth persona down. He doesn't have the nihilistic worldview that, Roderick really does. None of that is really in his character. And I will at least say this, the cast, I'm not saying that they were amazing in the original films, but they were casted for the most part really well. Here, it just feels like they got the most random people possible. And then you have Alicia Silverstone, and holy shit, Alicia Silverstone. I mean, to say she's overdoing it is an understatement. She's easily one of the worst characters I have seen all year. I couldn't stand this character. Just in the film, she's so annoying. She's just your typical bitchy mom who's constantly, trying to take Greg's electronics away, and she's blaming things on her husband. And I just really couldn't stand her character at all. She was really annoying. And then Tom Everett Scott, I thought was pretty bad here too. He's just so dumb. Like, the father in general, he's so dumb. He takes shit from everyone. He never seems to defend himself. He's just completely defenseless. He's pretty much a pussy throughout the whole film, and I really couldn't stand him. The directing here is also pretty bad. It's just, the tone is really inconsistent, and it's so much more geared towards children. Like, holy shit. I mean, the first three were, but this one feels even more geared towards children. Like, I don't think anyone's really gonna laugh at this unless you're a very young child. Not a single joke made me laugh. There really wasn't anything that I found funny in this movie. The writing here as well is pretty terrible. the directions this movie takes are truly ridiculous, and it really does feel very cartoony at points. The cinematography here, I don't even think is that great. I think the cinematography, it looks like something out of a direct-to-DVD film. It is baffling to me how this film was actually released in theaters, and things like, say, Cult of Chucky actually continue to get a direct-to-DVD release. Just makes no sense to me. I don't know who in their right mind decided this should be put in theaters, but whoever that is, you really need to be, something needs to happen. I don't know if you need to be fired necessarily, but whatever need be, just do something with that guy, because that guy clearly does not know what he's doing. It definitely was not a smart move at all to release this in theaters. It just makes it seem a lot more cheap, which, I mean, it's already cheap. I mean, they're clearly not trying here. They're just trying to deliver just some disposable piece of shit, and that's really what they do. But not only that, they make this a lot worse than it really could be. There are just so many cringy scenes in this movie. There are so many things I wish I didn't see here. Dive Wimpy Kid the Lawn Haul, like I said, I absolutely hated this movie. I don't want to talk about for that much longer, because it's really dumb. It's something that I hope none of you ever have the misfortune of watching. And I am going to give Dive Wimpy Kid the Lawn Haul a D-, only because that one performance. If that one performance wasn't good, it probably would have gotten an F. Also, Rowley's barely in this movie. They made it seem like Rowley was like the main focus here, and he's like barely in here, but either way, just stay the fuck away from this as far as you can. And then the next one I'm going to be reviewing is Batman versus Two-Face. And what Batman vs. Two-Face is essentially about is basically what the plot says. We have Batman, he's going after Harvey Dent, and Harvey Dent is transformed into Two-Face, and Two-Face is kind of rallying all these villains together and pitting them against Batman and Robin, and they have to basically try to save Gotham, but also themselves. And Batman vs. Two-Face overall, to be honest with you guys, I did not watch the one that came out last year, the Return of the Caped Crusaders. I didn't get around to watch them. I remember I wanted to. I just never really got around to watching it. But I figured that, since Adam West recently did pass away, I might as well check this out, which, I mean, it is very unfortunate. I never really watched the Batman TV show all that much, but I've watched clips here and there, and he definitely did do a good job. While it is a dumb show, he does a really good job in that role. He carries it pretty well. Beyond the cheesiness of it all, he's just very charismatic, and he does a very good job there. And that's basically what this is. It's a really good tribute to that series overall, and that's something I definitely really did enjoy. Adam West and Burt Ward, it's cool to see them back here. I thought overall they did have really good chemistry. They definitely do work very well together. As well as William Shatner as Two-Face. It's really cool to see him here as well, which is interesting because I heard they wanted to originally get William Shatner on the Batman TV series, but the character was just too dark at the time, so they had to cut him out. So you can tell this is like a story they've wanted to do for a long time, so it's cool they're actually able to kind of finally tell that story that's been put on the back burner for so many years. I did think overall he did a really good job here. He's very intimidating, he's a lot of fun to watch, and he definitely was really good. Julie Newmar, I thought was okay as Catwoman, but you can tell that she is significantly aged. And that really is the biggest gripe I do have with this film, is that it is hard to suspend your disbelief. Like, it's hard to see Batman in the way he talks now and still, just still suspend your disbelief and think of him as like a 30-year-old man, and then see Robin in like his 20s. I mean, clearly these people are not young anymore. They have aged significantly, especially Julie Newmar. It is very easy to tell that she is just not at all the age that she's playing, which I mean, I guess that was kind of the idea, was just them kind of going back into their glory days, but I don't know. I think they could have maybe updated, and then it would have worked just a little bit more. Really, my biggest problem with this movie overall is that it really doesn't feel like one. It feels more like a collection of, a TV show. That's really what it feels like. It feels like one episode of a TV show. It doesn't really have that movie vibe to it, but that's not really what they were trying to do. They're just trying to make a fun movie, and for the most part, that's what this is. There are a lot of fun scenes, and they really do use the animation to their advantage. Like, there's one really cool scene in the climax involving chess pieces, and I'm not gonna spoil, but I thought it was actually really creative. Actually, it's not chess pieces, it's a pool table, and I'm not gonna spoil, but I thought it was actually creative what they did. I really haven't seen something quite like that before, and again, because it's anime, they can basically do whatever they want. The restrictions they usually have for a live action aren't, they don't apply here. They are a lot more free reign to do whatever they want, and that's something I definitely really did enjoy. Also, it's a good family movie. It's something fun for the kids to watch. It's definitely more geared towards families, and I think they definitely did do that pretty well. Really, there's not too much to say about this movie. I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought it was definitely a fun watch. It's sad that Adam West is gone because you can tell they definitely are setting this up for future installments, which I don't know if they're ever going to happen. Here's hoping they do, but I don't know if they're ever going to go there. Obviously, now Adam West is gone. Maybe they'll start like a Nightwing thing, but this series is really cool, and it's sad to see it go. If this is the last movie we got, it definitely was a good way to go out. I don't think it was the way they wanted to go out, but I do think it was really cool to see Adam West one last time. Batman vs. Two-Face, just a fun movie overall, and I am going to give Batman vs. Two-Face overall a B. And the final film I'm going to be reviewing is A Dog's Purpose. So what A Dog's Purpose is essentially about is we center on this dog basically across different generations. He goes by different names, and basically it's this dog's quest to basically find his purpose through his respective owners. A Dog's Purpose overall, I wasn't really looking forward to this movie all that much. It looked really cheesy and kind of lifetimey, and I just wasn't really looking forward to it. But I heard a lot of good things about it, and I've had friends who have actually recommended it to me, so I figured I would, blind buy it for Black Friday, similar to what I did with Batman vs. Two-Face. And I will say, similar to Batman vs. Two-Face, I enjoyed this more than I expected to. I didn't think I was gonna dislike Batman vs. Two-Face. I'll say that right now. I just didn't really have much interest in it. But this one I definitely did check out, and I'm glad I did. I enjoyed A Dog's Purpose overall. It's not an amazing movie by any means, but I thought it definitely was well done. Josh Gad, he plays his part well, voicing the dog. I thought he did a good job overall. He's got that really nice, soothing, calming voice, so you can definitely see him as a little dog, and his story in general is honestly quite compelling. You can see this dog, and he's just trying to figure out, why am I here? That's essentially what it is. It's why am I here? Why was I put on this earth? Why do I keep getting reincarnated? He keeps thinking he's discovered his purpose, and you see him, he gets progressively more and more frustrated as the film goes on, and it was honestly really well done. I thought Josh Gad did a really good job with that, with the voiceover. The humans do a pretty good job. I found most of them to just be kind of okay. No one really stuck out to me. I thought everyone was just kind of one note. Dennis Quaid definitely is a standout. He does a great job here. I thought his performance was definitely really great. KJ Apa, hey, from Riverdale, he was here, and it was cool to see him. He definitely did a good job here. Most of the humans, they just play their parts well. It's nothing extraordinary, but for what they do, they definitely do a good job. Britt Robertson drops in as well, and she does a good job for the most part. Really, my biggest complaint with this film is one of them is the tone shifts. I do think the shift in tone didn't work sometimes in this movie. There are times this movie's trying to be really funny, and a lot of times it very much falls flat. I wasn't really laughing a lot. I thought it was cute, don't get me wrong. I think it definitely was a cute movie at points, but I thought the tone it shifted a little too drastically from the more sort of serious tone to this more silly humor. I just couldn't really tell who the film was trying to appeal towards. Like, there's parts of this film where it seems like it's trying to appeal towards families, but then it gets really dark, and just that shift in tone didn't always work as well as it should have. The story, like I said, I thought was honestly really well done. I thought the realism was actually really good. The fact this dog keeps getting reincarnated. Now, I don't know if this actually happens if dogs do get reincarnated. I honestly don't know much about that stuff, but if that is the case, I think they portrayed it pretty well here. I think it was definitely handled in a very well done manner, and I was overall impressed with the way they did that. I definitely did enjoy the way that was handled, and through, the different reincarnations, he is assigned different roles, and seeing him go through different sort of lives and what he does, it's cool to see, and I think he did a good job. However, after a certain point, those stories, they feel less like stories and more just like sort of like little vignettes of things that this dog has gone through, and a lot of the characters are very, very disposable. They don't really feel like characters. They feel like they're just in the movie. You don't really get, why they're here, and I understand, obviously, this is supposed to be what the dog is going through, whether he's Bailey or whether he is the police dog when he's Ellie. but a lot of the time you don't really feel for most of these characters. The only character I felt really attached to was Ethan, and the reason is because the film spends at least an hour with him before he is reincarnated, which that's something I will mention. The whole reincarnation stuff, that doesn't really happen till I'd say like an hour in. That's really when it starts to go down. But Ethan was a well done character. I definitely did care about him overall, but the other characters, I just didn't care about them. I thought they were just kind of there. They did what they needed to do. The actors weren't bad. I didn't think the characters were bad. They were just very surface level, and I don't know, I feel like we definitely could have gotten a bit more with them. In terms of the overall story, like where it ends up going, I think it's well done. There are definitely a lot of cheesy moments throughout this film for sure. There were moments where I'm like, oh, that's a little bit cheesy, but some moments I thought worked pretty well. Some stuff doesn't. Some stuff definitely feels very cheesy and lifetimey almost, but some of it does definitely work. The cinematography here I thought was definitely good. Like the dogs, you know, definitely the film goes through different decades. Like it starts off in the 50s and then it goes to the 80s, and I thought that they definitely did get that down pretty well, and that really is in regards to the score. The score very well understands the different environments and the different types of different styles of music throughout that time, and I thought they utilized that pretty well. And then the editing, like I said, I thought the editing was a bit choppy at points, especially once he starts to get reincarnated and he becomes all these different characters. I just felt that some of them were a little too short-lived, particularly this one cop. I thought that story was extremely rushed, and I think we could have gotten a lot more there, but we just didn't. And the way the film ends, I get what they were trying to do, but it just felt really cheesy and corny, and it just didn't work as well as I wanted it to. There definitely were some good moments. There were definitely some moments that I thought were emotional. And yes, it's emotionally manipulative, but it's emotionally manipulative in a good way. You know, there's nothing sadder than seeing a dog die, and I do think the movie handled that pretty well. A Dog's Purpose, it's a good movie. I didn't think it was anything amazing, but I did overall enjoy it. I'm glad that I checked it out overall, and I am overall going to give A Dog's Purpose a B-. And with that, guys, that's it. I have now done all of my catcher reviews. So let me know what you guys think of any of these movies if you want to. Free Fire, Ghost in the Shell, Diver Wimpy Kid the Lawn Haul, Batman vs. Two-Face, and A Dog's Purpose. Let me know what you guys think of all 5 of those films. Like I said, you know, I wanted to review these, but I just didn't have time. Also, a lot of them I didn't have a lot to say about. Like, Batman vs. Two-Face probably would have literally been like a 6-minute review. I just didn't really have a ton to say about that one. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.